The RMS Queen Mary is one of the most iconic historical vessels, although her future is in jeopardy because the company that owned her filed for bankruptcy just as she needed extensive repairs. But although she is the most famous Queen Mary, there are other ships with that name. There is a ship that sat on the River Clyde in Glasgow, also called the Queen Mary. Glasgow's TS Queen Mary is 3 years older than the much larger and more famous Cunard ship of the same name. She was built in 1933, which is even older than the Waverley, the last seagoing paddle steamer in the world. Both of these ships are named after Queen Mary of Teck, the wife of King George V. The TS Queen Mary gave up her name in 1934 for the Cunard ship Queen Mary, being known as the TS Queen Mary II until she reclaimed her name in 1976. In the 1940s, during World War II, she carried the Queen Mother, Princess Elizabeth, now the Queen, her sister Princess Margaret, and the US First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. Between 1956 and 1957, the TS Queen Mary II was renovated. Her coal engines were replaced by an engine powered by oil, and her 2 original funnels were replaced by 1 large funnel. She was also given new masts, but they were shortened in 1969 so that she could fit under the newly built Kingston Bridge. In 1976, the TS Queen Mary II was renamed back to her original name, the TS Queen Mary, although she was over 40 years old and it was found out that expensive work would be needed to keep her in service, so they chose to retire her. After the Queen Mary was retired, she was sold to Glasgow District Council, who planned to turn her into a museum ship. Unfortunately, they couldn't afford to pay for this, so she was sold to Euro Yachts in 1980, but they had to sell her again the very next year. In 1981, she was towed to London. Despite the short distance, it took 4 days for the small tugboat to tow her to the Thames. The Queen Mary was sold yet again in 1987 to Base plc. They then paid £2.5 million to renovate her and restored her original 2-funnel design. They also opened 2 bars and 2 function rooms. The Queen Mary was bought by Samuel Bowden in 2009 and towed to Tilbury. Mr. Bowden wanted to renovate her and make it into a floating restaurant and fitness centre. However, this plan was scrapped in 2011 and her future was unknown as she sat in the Tilbury docks. She was put up for auction in late 2011 and was sold to Ranjan Chowdhury. He wanted to see her back in her 1930s glory. In 2012, a charity named Friends of the TS Queen Mary was formed. Their goal was to save her and bring her back to the River Clyde. In 2015, she was in a terrible state. She was given a prohibition notice, meaning that she could not set sail until made seaworthy again. In the later half of 2015, the Queen Mary was arrested by the Port of Tilbury Limited because the owner didn't pay the berthing dues. The Port of Tilbury put her up for auction, and the bid by the Friends of the TS Queen Mary was accepted. Finally, an owner who was ready to give the ship a promising future had purchased her. In December 2015, a campaign to restore her was launched. It was led by Robbie Coltrane, who played Rubeus Hagrid in Harry Potter, and backed by the Sunday Mail. In March 2016, donations had been sent in from all across the UK and enough money was secured to save her. Work started in April of the same year and she was returned to the River Clyde. She was then moved to the Prince's Dock just outside the Glasgow Science Centre and right next to the Glasgow Tower, the tallest tower in Scotland, where she still sits today and is undergoing major restorations. When the restorations are complete, the TS Queen Mary will be in just as good of condition as she was when she was built in 1933. She will be open to visitors as a heritage site and an education centre. Unlike the RMS Queen Mary, which is at risk of sinking at Long Beach, the future is certain for the TS Queen Mary pocket steamer, and it is a promising future.